Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Bolt Action Reloading. In this week's episode we're going to be using the 208 grain A-Max and Hodgdon H1000 and our 300 Win Mag Thompson Center Compass. Stick around. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you'd like to see how I and the rest of me here make our group smaller, start now by subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon. That way you get notified when I post next week's video and you won't miss anything. In this episode, we're going to be fine-tuning a load which we've done work on previously. Before we get too deep into that, let's cover our test platform for today. Our test platform is a Thompson Center Compass chambered in 300 Winchester Magnum. We've replaced the factory stock with a Boyds Pro Varmint laminated hardwood stock with adjustable comb height. We've added a 20 MOA EGW long action scope base. The scope we're using for tests is the SWFA fixed 16 power scope, mil-mil. It's currently wearing 30 millimeter Seekins precision scope rings, as well as an SWFA bubble level. The factory trigger has been upgraded with an MCARBO trigger spring kit, and we'll be reducing the recoil of Precision Armament M4-72308 brake. Now guys, for our combination today on the channel, we haven't actually tested this previously. Why I say that is the last time we actually tested this, we were not using Norma Brass. Norma Brass is the big factor that we've added into today's testing, but today's test will involve more samples, and hopefully we've got a good head start with some of the tests we've done before. Talking about our previous testing for a minute, we'll put our velocity graph that we developed previously. As you can see on the screen, we've previously tested these 208 grain A-Max with H1000. We've actually done a little bit of this testing in SIG brass as well as our ADG, but the ADG testing is what we'll be talking about today. We'll put a velocity curve on your screen, and you can see on our test from 75.3 grains of H1000 all the way to 78 grains of H1000, we found a velocity spread from 2820 feet per second all the way to 2923 feet per second. Now the data we've based this testing off of is actually Hornady's load data straight out of their 10th edition manual. However, at 78 grains, our estimated velocity was actually only supposed to be 2869 feet per second. Reaching basically 50 feet per second over our maximum seems to be the story of everything so far in this rifle. Pretty much all testing compared to the book has been slightly over that velocity that we expected. Couple things of note that we need to go over. If you've been watching this series, you're going to be aware that we actually ran Tubbs' final finish system through our rifle. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a card up and you can check that video out. It kind of goes over the entire process of loading that system and running it through the rifle and gives a little bit of before and after view as well as some results with some factory ammunition. This is going to be one of the tests in our first series of tests that we've shot since we've ran that system on it, and we're really hoping for good groups. One of the downsides of running that system though, it actually pushed our distance to the lands even further away, which has been certainly probably my number one concern of this rifle in its state it came from the factory. But I thought running the Tubbs final finish might actually give us a little bit more accuracy, and I was willing to take the risk. All that aside, we've ran it and we've actually extended the lengths out to our lands. So the distance to the lands with this projectile is actually now a cartridge-based ogive measurement of about 2.923 inches. It's going to put our cartridge overall length a little over 3.65 inches and well over the ability to fit in our factory magazine. However, accuracy is what we're looking for today, and so with a little bit of testing we've done, 20 thousandths has kind of been a sweet spot we've found with some other projectiles, and so we're going to be single feeding today and testing to see what groups we can get at 20 thousandths off the lands. The last cartridge draw length we actually tested was 3.420 inches, extending the projectile length out a little bit, as well as switching this Norma Brass, which should have a slightly larger case capacity than the brass we were using before, might actually slow our loads down a little bit. So let's get right into our load data then. Again, this is factory Norma Brass, brand new, 25 pieces. It's going to be fire forming during today's test. However, when I took my Hornady headspace gauge across these, the headspace measurements was very consistent across this lot. I'm hoping for some reasonable testing today, but certainly there is no guarantee. We did resize the necks, just push them through the die and set their neck tension at 2 thousandths with our Sinclair expander mandrel. These cases have been primed with our FED215M large rifle Magnum match primers. Hodgdon H1000 is obviously our powder for today, and our charge weights we are cherry picking from our graph that we have loaded previously. Messing with our case volume as well as our overall length could affect these slightly, but we're casting a wide net over our wide area, and we're hoping we're going to find similar velocities and hopefully a node in there as our graph might indicate. So looking at the graph again real quick, we're actually going to be testing one charge weight at 76 grains, which is the upper side of that lower plateau that you see there. Previously we got around 2839 feet per second, and then we're going to bump all the way up to 76.8 grains and load in 0.2 increments all the way to 77.4 grains. The cartridge base to ogive we're picking is again right at 20 thousandths off, basically 2.900 inches, putting our cartridge overall length somewhere around 3.63 inches, far from the 3.420 inches we shot previously. The estimated velocity we're hoping to hit today with that higher charge is right around that 2880 feet per second mark. Honestly, that's a very similar velocity node that we found with the 220 SMK and Rotumbo. Don't know if that's something particular for this rifle. Certainly a coincidence that 2880 seems to be something this rifle likes to shoot. But we certainly won't know until we test it. We have all of our ammunition loaded. Let's go out the range and see how it does. Well, welcome back, guys, from the range. Wasn't that a trip? I would say it's the trip we've all been waiting for, or it might just be me. Lots of stuff to talk about, what was possibly going on, but obviously the star of the show is that 76.0 grain load, and finally a group under half an MOA with this rifle. A long time a coming. I can't wait to see if we can repeat that. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's go through our data as we normally do, and we'll get into all the details. At our 76.0 grain charge, our average velocity was 2757 feet per second. Standard deviation was an acceptable 8.7, extreme spread of 24, and obviously a wonderful 0.464 MOA group. At 76.8 grains, our average velocity jumped to 2788 feet per second. Standard deviation jumped to 11.7, extreme spread of 24. Our group also opened up to 1.272 MOA. At 77 grains, 2805 feet per second was what we achieved, a standard deviation of 15.9, extreme spread of 44, and a 1.732 MOA group. At 77.2 grains, our average velocity was 2810 feet per second. Standard deviation was a wonderful 4.4, extreme spread of 10, but a 1.380 MOA group. At 77.4 grains, we jumped up only 3 feet per second to 2813. Standard deviation jumped up to 36.4 with an extreme spread of 88, but a 1.448 MOA group. Now you might wonder what was happening that last load, and I really don't want to make any excuses. The only thing I can figure is possibly I loaded that at 76.4 grains. It's down at that 2750 feet per second level. I'm not sure exactly what else could have happened with our low shot. Had we actually dropped that low shot out of our group, our extreme spread went from 88 to 21. Again, don't have any excuses. That's just what happened today. You might notice I took the primer out of the brass and actually measured the case volume according with some of our other ones, and it was within 0.2 of a grain. I really don't have anything in particular to blame. Picking our one group at 76.0 grains being our best group seems foolish now, but obviously hindsight is 2020. Calling it the group of the day is an understatement, seeing as it's the best group we've ever actually shot with this rifle at 100 yards. And probably no coincidence that's what our Norma Brass, being as the first time we've shot our Norma Brass on this channel. I can't wait to give it another try. Like I've been known to do before, I'm going to put our 6.5 guys chart on the screen. Give us a little bit more information if you guys like to see the single shots. Loads 1 through 5 are the loads that we shot in today's testing. Loads 6 through 10 are the single data points from the pressure test that we did when we actually were using SIG brass to find our pressure and velocity curves. We actually didn't achieve our max velocity or anywhere close to where it was before, seeing as 2880 was where we hit before and 2813 was as high as we actually reached today. Certainly that 2810 feet per second with a standard deviation of 4.4 is nothing to sneeze at. But again, a 1.4 MOA group really isn't something we want to write home about necessarily. A lot to do with this is case volume. Our SIG brass has a measured case volume of 90.56, but I didn't know the actual case volume we were going to get out of this Norma Brass until we'd actually fired it. So between these two cases, after sizing it, trimming it down to size, and measuring our case volume, this Norma Brass came in somewhere around 94.5 grains of water. Almost a full 4 grains higher than the SIG brass we used to develop the load. I certainly wasn't expecting that. More case volume means more powder at lower pressures. If you guys are shooting Norma Brass, I'd like to know if this mimics what you guys have seen. This just seems extraordinarily different than our other brands of brass we've shot so far. I'll put our case volumes that we've got up until this point on the screen for the different brands that we've tested. Like I said, 94.5 grains wasn't what I was expecting. As I have in the last couple videos, we're going to talk about quick load again. And one of the reasons why I actually started bringing it up during our last couple videos. Maybe it's coincidence. I haven't been able to verify it yet, but one of our most interesting points looking at today's chart is where our barrel times actually are. Putting our chart on the screen, you'll see at 76 grains, our barrel time is a 1.311 millisecond barrel time, and though it's not exact, matching up very closely to our 1.3084 supposed goal barrel time for our 6th node. Looking at QuickTime to actually predict it, if we were to bump it up 1/10 of a grain to 76.1 grains, we would be basically right on that average velocity of 2761 feet per second and that 1.3084 barrel time that quick load is predicting. In this particular case, I'm not sure 1/10 of a grain is going to make too much difference. You guys can be the judge. I'm certainly not going to say definitively that being exactly on that barrel time is why our rifle performed so well today. It's certainly going to make me try and match some more barrel times down in that velocity range to see if we get more one-hole groups just like that. Talking about pressure today, no problems here. At 76 grains, we're down at 52,538 PSI. Our max charge of 77.4, we only got up to 55,859 PSI. Though I'm certainly not recommending this, quick load is predicting with our probably I haven't mentioned yet BA value of 3820. That was how I matched up our H1000 today. Actually, even moving up to the next node at 79.2 grains, quick load is still saying that we would be only at 60,475 PSI, which is still under our 64,000 max that it uses. Please don't use that without testing it. Your rifle may be significantly different. And honestly, shooting a half a MOA group out of this rifle, which has basically up until this point been impossible, I really don't care if it goes there. If we can repeat this at 76 grains, the only bad news is I don't have very many 208 grain A-Maxes left, and they don't make this bullet anymore. But if your luck's anything like mine, you'll probably understand exactly where I'm coming from. And going with our theme on pressure, I'll put a shot of the brass on the screen. You guys can see, look at our charge weights from 76 grains to 77.4. Nothing ordinary that we haven't seen out of this rifle before, even with factory ammunition. Just that consistent primer crating that we seem to always see. Nothing on here that scares me at all. I'm very excited to go back and do some more work around that 76 grain charge and see exactly what this rifle can do. Maybe tuning around the area a little bit, we'll find something really spectacular. For how this rifle's performed so far, I'm going to consider that to be an absolutely spectacular load. But as always, I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section below. Even if you're not reloading for 300 Winchester Magnum, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to put those in the comments section below. If you like the content here on the channel and you haven't subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. Hit the subscribe button. Turn the bell notification on so you get notified when I post next week's video. I hope to see you guys back next week. And until then, stay safe in small groups.